So the special theme for this particular episode is a touch of evil. And with that being the theme, some of these stories don't really relate like how you think they would with that type of name for the theme. What's up, guys? This is Courtney, one half of the brothers Deconstruction here, and I'm bringing you another Beyond Belief video, this time for Halloween. Happy spooky season, everyone, for season 2, episode 12. This is their A Touch of Evil special. So because it's Halloween, I wanted to do another special type of video. This entire week has been filled with horror themed videos that we've been doing. So I wanted to cap it off on Halloween with another Beyond Belief video. As always, I'm gonna go over some acting, some technical stuff, and the stories as well, and what I believe the actual true portion of the story may be. With that being said, let's go ahead and knock out the 2 fictional stories first. Merry-Go-Round and Used Car Salesman. Merry-Go-Round is based around a couple. The woman in the relationship, her father passed down an old merry-go-round to her in his will after he passed away. There's like a rumor or word about the merry-go-round being cursed because there was a really bad accident that happened on the merry-go-round years ago. I think one person died, a bunch of people got hurt. And what happens in the episode is that she gets it out of storage, she wants to start it back up. She's not really sure how to attract people to it because of the word and the stench of a curse being on the merry-go-round. So what her boyfriend does, I don't think he's her husband, he might be. But what he does is that he proposes that he breaks a world record. It's gonna bring a bunch of press and a bunch of people once they realize that it's safe. He's supposed to ride it for like 100 straight hours, which I don't really understand the logical like details of that, because he even says, I'll see you in 4 days to the press when he gets on a ride. 4 days sitting on a merry-go-round? Nah. See, this is some, you know what, I ain't even gonna go there. But what happens to him is that he calls her over not too long, I think after one rotation of the merry-go-round, he calls her over. She comes over and he says, I think the horse just bit me. And she's like, stop playing around, because earlier in the episode, he kind of fakes out, oh, the curse, I think it got me. And it was really, really like terrible acting, trying to pull off that prank.
The curse, it got me.
You know, he's slumped over on the horse. The technician that used to work with her father, who I'm gonna call Katie Cassidy because she looks kind of like Katie Cassidy to me at least. But the technician that used to work with Katie Cassidy's dad, he's a real eccentric dude. He like does like Doctor Strange hand symbols and shit like that. It's evil shit. It's real out there. But he comes along, he stops the ride. He walks over, or she runs up, she asks him, is the boyfriend okay? He says she's dead. He's dead. Mrs. Penny, I believe that's her name. And we see a snake come out the mouth. This is a false story. The only thing I can really talk about is the acting. Katie Cassidy, or the Katie Cassidy stand-in lookalike, she did pretty okay. I think the southern accents are a little too forced, but everybody else is kind of over the top, and especially the old guy. But yeah, that was a weird decision when it comes to character portrayal. The second false story, or fictional story I should say, is Used Car Salesman, and this has Bullhorn from Black Dynamite in it.
Motherfucker.
Byron Mims. He plays a car salesman. He's not the main car salesman, but he's the one that does the narration of the actual segment. There's a real shady car salesman that he works with that will do anything to get the sales. So Bullhorn is working with this elderly lady. She has her eyes on this one car, and he says, you don't want to buy that. That engine has 150,000 miles on it, and it hasn't been taken care of. It would be wrong of me to sell that to you, although I could, and I would make more on it, but that's not right. This car is much better suited for you. I forget the shady salesman's name. He goes out there, takes the customer, sells her the car that she was eyeing, and it was above sticker price at that. And he's like bragging about it. Hey, it's a dog-eat-dog world. You two should know that by now. I do what I have to do. At some point in the episode, this band comes to the lot looking for a van. They have a gig that they need to attend to. They need a car. They're going to like Vegas or something like that. He sells them a van with bad brakes. And he says, hey, this needs to get checked out. But the guy's like, we can't really wait. We need something like today. So he says, look, it's in good shape. Don't worry about it. I'll give it to you. So he sells him a van. Byron Mims and another one of the salesmen comes up to him with a paper, tells him to read it. That band that he sold that van to got in an accident and they died. They come, you know, he ends up working late. He's real nonchalant about it. It's like, hey, I offered him to get it checked out. He declined. This isn't on me. He ends up working late that night, so he has to close down. He gets cornered by 4 cars, and there's a black van that basically we're not shown it, but the black van runs him over. Again, this is another false story, so there's not really much to talk about besides the acting, which was okay. The guy that they got to play the shady salesman looks untrustworthy as hell. I will say though that I do like the appearance of Byron Mims. It's just good to see him in it's just good to see actors that you recognize in earlier stuff. And I think he did the voiceover for it, the voiceover narration. I think he did fine in the role as well. But it's a fictional story. There's really not much else to talk about. Now, let's move on to the stories that were presented as fact. So the first story that was presented as fact is the second segment in the episode. And this is another instance of one of the segments terrifying me as a kid when I watched it. This is Red-Eyed Creature. Family just moves into a house. One night, the kid wakes up in the middle of the night, goes in the kitchen for snacks, sees like these 2 red eyes attached to like a outline of a face floating towards him. Freaks him the fuck out. He's like crying. His parents and their nanny are trying to console him. A couple of days pass. The wife is in the kitchen. Lights go out. She's like trying to turn them on, realizes it's a short. She hears this weird noise.
Who's there?
And she sees the eyes and face floating towards her. She screams. She's talking to her husband and the nanny, and she's like, what did we see then? So he comes down to the conclusion that they have like some type of console on the wall. It looks like it could be a security system. There are 2 red dots on it. And if you're looking at it from across the room, it could look like 2 red eyes. Look, it was a short. I told you it was a short because I looked at the circuit breaker. Maybe that was the furnace kicking on. Maybe that was the noise that you heard. And the nanny is like, well, that seems to explain it right there, but we're all forgetting about Billy. He's still pretty shaken up about this. So she goes into his room, talks to him, and I like the nanny because she has an Irish accent. She's very, very jovial, and it's just really, really pleasant. And I think that's a really good hook that they get you with, because while she's talking to him, she says, look, it's all in your head. You know, at the end of the day, this is the greatest gift that a kid can have, their imagination. But then when we get older, we stop paying attention to it, and then we all live dull lives. Please promise that you won't do that, boyo. And that's what really got me, the boyo part. Hugs her, you know, they embrace, whatever like that. She leaves the room, turn the lights off. As soon as she turns to the camera, there's a pause. Her eyes turn red. So she's the red-eyed creature that they've been seeing in the house. Now, this was presented as true. Now, after the segment played in the actual episode, Jonathan Frakes said that there was, at least not yet, there was nothing bad that happened to this family. And the nanny wasn't there when the previous owner hanged himself. So is the nanny just a creature watching over the family, or is there something more to it? So honestly, I don't know what angle this might be as far as being true. Now, as far as the acting goes, I think that it was pretty well done. I think the crying of the kid early on in the episode when after he saw the creature was a little funny looking. But I think the father, the husband, I think he did a pretty good job of like actually having a commanding presence when it came to, hey, we're gonna sit down, have this conversation, or I'm gonna talk to the realtor. Hey, tell me what's going on with the house, like full disclosure. So I think he did a good job. I think the mom was okay. It wasn't really anything that I noticed about her. And I think the standout was the nanny, because they kept cutting to her in the episode and she just always had like a small little smirk or a smile on her face, and there was nothing ever suspicious about the nanny. Obviously, having watched this and remembering this from when I was a kid and being fucking terrified of the episode, I thought that it was like, oh, they're focusing on her a little too much. But I know that she's the creature, so this is all just suspicious to me in general. But I think she stood out, one, because of the accent, and two, it was such a good twist that you wouldn't have expected, because they provided a solution in the story. So this could be a family bought a house that a person committed suicide in. A family thought that they were seeing a monster in the middle of the night, but it was actually the light coming from a security console. There's a couple of different angles, but I can't really pinpoint one where it seems the most logical explanation for what's true in the story. Now, the last two stories after Used Car Salesman, which is the third segment in the episode, the last two stories are true. So the next one is Surveillance Camera. This one is a little bit funny just because the main actor that the story revolves around is apparently Serbian, but his accent is so, I don't know if he's really Serbian or not, but his European accent is so hilarious because he kind of sounds Russian. The story is about a convenience store owner who's saving up money to bring his family over to America. Previous owner of the convenience store was robbed and killed. Now he's talking, now the one thing I do like in this episode is the elderly woman that he rings up. She tells him about the previous owner, how he was such an evil person. He hated everybody. He would even be mean to the homeless people that had money to purchase things, but he wouldn't even let them in the store. He would even be mean to the kids, just mean to everybody. So I liked her delivery and her dialogue because she was presented as being foreign as well. And she had moments where she like, he would even be mean to the children. And she would say something in the foreign language. I just thought that was a nice touch that actress added to the performance. But the guy is saving up money to bring his family over, like I said. You know, he rings her up. Now, at one point, he takes out this metal box that he's saving the money in, and he like pulls out this thick ass wad, and he says it's $8,000 in the voiceover. I'm like, and he looks around, goes down under the counter, picks it up, pulls it out, looks at it. I'm like, bruh, you don't need to do that in the middle of the day. One, why are you keeping that in the store? He's just at the store one day. This old guy comes in, pulls out a gun, give me your money. And he's like, I don't have anything. He's like, no, I'm not talking about the register. I'm talking about the box that you have underneath the counter. And he's like, okay. So he goes down and gets it. Now there's a voiceover of, I don't know how he knew about the box, but he gives the guy the metal box with $8,000 in it. This old guy leaves. I don't know how long later, two minutes later, 5 minutes later, these two guys come in and stick him up again. Cause like, hey, give us the money, open up the register. And he's just frozen like, what the fuck? So he's talking to police and he's showing them the tape because there's a security camera right behind the counter. And the old lady points out that on the security camera with the previous owner, it recorded the people who killed the previous owner, but they were never caught. The first guy who robbed them, who took the box with $8 grand in it, isn't on the tape. It's just the two robbers. So he's like, I don't know what this is. The first guy came in, took my box with $8,000 in it. One of the cops is under the counter. He pulls up the box. He's like, here you go. You're probably looking for this. That old cop ended up coming back to him saying, hey, we found the two guys who robbed you, and they confessed to the murder of the previous owner of the store. I have the tape for you if you want to look at it, which is weird. I'm pretty sure, well, I don't know. Cops be wilding now. So they might bring old evidence to come look at. I don't know. He pops it in, watches it, and the guy who's getting mugged is the guy that mugged him before the two robbers came in. And he's like, hey, that's the guy that took my box. And he's like, the officer's like, yeah, I thought it was because he matched your description. He's like, who is he? And he's like, that's the previous owner that those two killed. Wild as hell. So it's kind of like the old owner kind of redeemed himself by stopping this guy from getting essentially his life savings for his family to come over, stolen in a mugging by the same guys that killed him. Anything could be the true portion of the story. A convenience store owner got robbed. A convenience store owner was robbed and killed. And the two people were later caught. You know what I'm saying? There can be different, and like I said, the acting was up and down in parts, but I like the elderly lady. Her acting seemed the most natural. Now the last story is also presented as true. It's called Graffiti, and it's about a school who has graffiti popping up all over the place saying, remember Pearl Harbor. Now I think with this segment, they do a good job of hiding details about what's going on and about the time frame of the episode, of the segment, I mean. So you have Remember Pearl Harbor being spray painted all over the place. The principal thinks that it's this one student who looks like Stephen Dorff, an uncanny resemblance in my opinion. I could be wrong though. But he thinks it's this one particular student, takes him in the office and basically grills him for an hour because Remember Pearl Harbor pops up on the sidewalk that was written in the cement before it dried. Remember Pearl Harbor is like spray painted in the gym or something, or the side of the school. And then while the principal is like interrogating him for like an hour or so, he pulls out like the conduct books and the attendance books to see if he's missed enough to get kicked out of school. And while he's looking through it, Remember Pearl Harbor is written all on the pages. Like one of the janitors comes in and says, hey, you should look out the window. His car has Remember Pearl Harbor on the side of it, right? And again, he thinks the kid did all of this. And the kid is like, when? When did I touch your car? Because I've been in here the entire time. He's right. So he literally couldn't have been the one to do the car, at least, because he was in the principal's office. So at the end of the episode, one of the big twists is that they let him go, and the janitor and the principal are talking, and they're like, I don't get it. What does Remember Pearl Harbor mean? So now you're thinking, what do you mean, what does Remember Pearl Harbor mean? It's Pearl Harbor. How do you not know about Pearl Harbor? You're the principal of a school. Like, that's a really big moment of history. Turns out he grabs the conduct and the attendance book to, I guess, put him back or something like that. The camera tilts down and we see like a little calendar on the desk. It's December 5th, 1941. Pearl Harbor got bombed 2 days later. And the principal says that.
2 days later, the Japanese launched a sneak attack on our naval base at Pearl Harbor.
Now, it comes to the acting, thought the acting was okay. I think the principal probably was a little too intense at some points when it comes to grilling the student and trying to be so determined that he did all of this when there's no proof. I think overall the acting was okay, but I think the better job here is the fact that they hid the details of the time frame, because nobody ever mentioned remember Pearl Harbor until the end of the episode. They're more offended that the fact that something got defaced. The school was defaced. My car was defaced. They're more offended at that versus the actual statement being written. And they're more so confused when it's constantly popping up. You did this? So I think they did a good job of not acknowledging the fact that it was 2 days before Pearl Harbor happened until the end of the episode, where it was like, what does that mean? And then you see the date is 2 days before it happened. Now, as far as the details, and this is another one of those segments where after the title card of fact pops up, Jonathan Frakes comes in with, according to the first 10 interviews conducted by author Robert Tralins. So again, this is first-hand research that was conducted and interviews being done regarding the story. So what's the detail that was true about the story? Did somebody actually, was there actually a school that had Remember Pearl Harbor written on it 2 days beforehand? This is probably the one story where I can't pinpoint what the true details are, because it's such a specific thing that you can't really figure out what the portion of it is. Was this a story that's actually based around what the story was about that they presented? This was another episode of Beyond Belief that I remember watching when I was a kid. And this is another episode that scared me when I was a kid. I was actually kind of getting creeped out while watching this episode and another episode I have coming up later for Friday the 13th. Yeah, so I walked around my apartment, turned all the lights on. Some of the lights are actually still on, like in my room and shit like that. So yeah, watching Beyond Belief, like I said, really creeps me the fuck out. So, you know, being home alone or living by myself and yeah, watching this probably wasn't the best idea. So I'm definitely gonna have to go to sleep tonight with something joyful on the TV. Sorry for you guys. Anyway, guys, that's my look at A Touch of Evil, the special for Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction. This is season 2, episode 12. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna try to get to other video or other episodes in the series as well. The videos just end up going so long, and I hate editing super long videos now because I feel as if I should be able to get these videos down to a certain time frame, and talking about each segment in the story or in the episode just always leads these videos to being super, super long. As always, I appreciate the support, whether it's 1, 5, 10, or 100 views. Apparently, the YouTube algorithm loves likes and comments and everything like that. I don't really care, but I do enjoy the comments because these special videos were brought upon by somebody in the comments saying that I should do a video on the specials. Hope you're having a safe Halloween. I don't know if any trick-or-treating is gonna be going on, but hope you're all having safe fun. Go check out the other videos on the channel. Hope you enjoy your spooky season as it's finally come to an end. I love Halloween, man. I love it. But as always, guys, I'll catch up with you later.